All right, so we can determine from a demonstration with hexane, water, iodine crystals, and potassium permanganate a few things. In terms of interparticle interactions and strengths, we want to answer some questions about it. We can see that hexane and water are not miscible. We want to know why. Why is that? How can we explain that in terms of, their interparticle interactions and strengths? Well, hexane has LDF. It has London dispersion forces between molecules. That's the intermolecular force that you see in hexane. Water has hydrogen bonds between molecules. What are the strongest, or what are the most dominant, the most dominant intermolecular forces we would see between hexane and water? Well, hexane and water attractions are dipole. Water's the dipole. Induced dipole. Dipole, induced dipole. I think the hyphen's actually on the second word. Dipole, induced dipole forces. You see that these intermolecular forces are actually much weaker than the attraction between hexane molecules and the attraction between water molecules. So because of that, this is immiscible. They're not going to mix together. Then we see KMnO4 is soluble in water, but not in hexane. Okay, we can see this because KMnO4 is ionic. Okay, so KMnO4 is held together by ionic bonds. Water is held together by dipole, or not just dipole, but hydrogen bonding. Dipole as well, but it's held together by hydrogen bonds. Hexane is held together by LDF, London dispersion forces. But we can conclude that the ionic bond, ion dipole forces, and hydrogen bonds have similar strength. LDF is not similar strength to these other forms. So when you see LDF, it's typically not going to bond well. It's typically not going to dissolve in a substance that is polar. When you see that LDF is the dominant intermolecular force. All right, and then we see I2 is soluble in hexane but not in water. Well, we can see that I2 is nonpolar and hexane is nonpolar, but water is very polar. In fact, it forms hydrogen bonds with itself. So the LDF in I2 and hexane, the London dispersion forces in iodine and hexane are similar in strength, so iodine dissolves in hexane, but not water.